Hi, how's it going? This is Resident of Collinwood for YouTube. I'm here to do a video for you guys. A Halloween video, something I haven't done in forever, for God's sakes. But I'm not just doing any video. No, I'm doing in many ways, a Judith Margaret Myers retrospective. But you can't do a Judith Margaret Myers retrospective without looking at one, both iterations, and two, Michael Myers. So here I go. What is a babysitter, you might ask? Well, a babysitter is someone who is either A, asked, or B, volunteered to babysit a person who is younger than them, who is unable to take care of themselves, meaning the person needs parental supervision, not parental guidance, sorry, parental supervision, without the actual person who is watching them often being a parent. Now, on occasions, you will have a parent babysit someone else's kid. That can happen. But for argument's sake, for the town of Haddonfield, we've spared the expense of having an actual having someone with actual, parental experience watch a kid to someone who has little to none parental experience. And by little, I mean absolutely fucking none. Watch Michael Audrey Myers. That person being his sister, Judith Margaret Myers. There are questions to be asked. Number one, was Judith asked to babysit her brother or was she volunteered? It's a question I can't definitively answer, but let's look at both sides of the coin for 1963, shall we? Let's say she was asked. Number one, it would present her a perfect opportunity to know that she could invite her boyfriend over, which it would explain exactly when he knew when to come over, because she knows they're going to leave to go watch a movie, for God's sakes, at the Lost River Drive-In or wherever the hell they went. Who knows, right? So, was she just volunteered? By volunteered, I mean, did the parents say, hey, me and your dad are going to go watch a movie. Your ass needs to watch your little brother on Halloween. Take him out trick or treating, come back home, etc., etc., etc. Meaning she wasn't really asked, she was just thrown to the wolf. And I do mean wolf, because she's thrown to the slaughter. Um, it's possible. She was just, hey, you're volunteered, you're going to watch your brother, you have no real choice in the matter, which is a possibility. Now, in every way, shape, and form, I'd like to believe she was forced to watch her little brother and not even really asked. But there is the question of the boyfriend, meaning he obviously knew when to come over. Now, so I assume she was asked. Now, is Judith Margaret Myers a good babysitter? Hell to the no. She's really not. In fact, her quote is, Michael's around here someplace, meaning she doesn't know where the fuck her brother is or where he's even gone. And not that she's even getting up to go look for his hapless ass. Uh, Judith Margaret Myers clearly did not want to babysit. So there is the other side of the coin where you could say, well, she wasn't really asked, she was just volunteered. Possible. Now, her and the boyfriend creep upstairs. Unbeknownst to her and her dipshit boyfriend, they're being watched by a little 6-year-old child, Michael Audrey Myers, Judith's brother. The person she's supposed to be watching, but in reality is watching her every move. So what gives? And by that I don't mean the why. The question becomes, can Michael Audrey Myers murder his sister before the stroke of midnight on Halloween? The answer to both John Carpenter's Halloween and Rob Zombie's Halloween is equivalently and undeniably yes. The differences are simple. Michael is stalking his sister from outside the house. We don't know why he's doing it, we just know that he's doing it. He walks across the street, around the house, goes into the kitchen, gets a knife, watches Judith's dipshit boyfriend, who didn't get laid, come down the steps and out of the house. Michael then proceeds upstairs and slaughters his sister like there's no tomorrow. And really, that's the joy of it. We'll never know why he murdered Judith, why he chose to murder Judith, but Judith is your unlucky recipient. John Carpenter gets into the ideology of fate, meaning this was always Judith Margaret Myers' fate, to be murdered by her brother on Halloween night. It was also fate in 1978 for Michael Myers to escape Smiths Grove, Warner County Sanitarium and stalk three random people. Now, yes, there is the backstory of how Halloween was supposed to be a grander scheme and how he was supposed to go go around town, meaning Halloween was supposed to be where Michael stalked and killed more people. Now, that doesn't happen because they didn't have the budget for that, which in all didn't make it a horrible film. If anything, it made it a better film. Michael stalking three random people is very scary, very creepy as fuck, no matter how you view it. Whether you believe Laurie Strode is his sister in the first one or not, it's like, holy shit, this girl is the unlucky. Let's get into one thing real clear. I'm going to talk about the sister connection, and then I'm going to also not talk about the sister connection, because yes, I'm including David Gordon Green's in all this madness. Though he only briefly gets into the death of Judith Margaret Myers. Why does he, in fact, only briefly get into it? Meaning he gets into it, but it's not a full depth thing. It's because it's so well known by the audience, and really, there's no reason to dread it up any further. That's number one. Number two, how many people in this film were actually in the film that David Gordon Green did were actually alive in 1963, let alone living in the town of Hatfield? Brackett, maybe, but he wouldn't have been the sheriff at the time. Loomis, we're not sure of. He probably was, considering he becomes the psychiatrist of Michael Myers. If not living in Haddonfield, he's damn sure living close. So we do know that the Strodes were a big part of Haddonfield, so they were probably always living within the town. Now, do they have anything to directly do with the murder, whether you consider the sister connection or not? No, not really. When you include the sister connection, the only thing the Strodes really do is adopt Lori, which it doesn't make, just because somebody adopts your hapless ass, it doesn't make you related to them at all, blood related. You're sort of related, and sort of is so fucking loose it's not even funny. Um, Now, when you get into the non-sister connection, meaning John Carpenter's original Immortal Classic, Judith Margaret Myers is dead. There's no doubt about it. And there's no changing her fate either. That's what's beautiful part of it. No, I don't give a shit if you have a time machine, a DeLorean, I Ching wands, if you perform a seance. There is no changing the fate of one Judith Margaret Myers. It's something John Carpenter hammers home all the time, and he's not the only one who's going to hammer it home. If you had any doubts that Judith wasn't meant to die, look at Rob Zombie's Halloween. Not only does she die, but other people die with her on this time. Now, here's the differences. No, God. Michael Myers is a product of a broken home. His stepfather's a piece of shit. And most stepdads can be. Most dads can be too. Trust me, I grew up with an asshole. Um, oh my God. So, his mother is a stripper. Though she's nice, she does have a man in her home who is a walking dumpster fire and probably fucking should be set on fucking fire. The biggest difference is obvious. It's clear. This Michael Myers is you're supposed to feel sorry for because he's growing up in a broken home. Whether that's Rob's direct message or not, it's there. Now, Michael is also bullied in school. Again, the key thing to remember too is with John Carpenter's Halloween, we don't get really much of a backstory. You know, we barely get a backstory at all about Michael Myers. The only thing we know about him is that he murdered his sister on Halloween night. But there is one constant. There are there are two questions that are similar in the remake than that are also there in the original. Number one, is Judith Margaret Myers a good babysitter? Answer, same answer, no. It's the same answer. No, she's not a good babysitter. Why do we keep putting a kid with Judith Margaret Myers, for God's sakes? We know she can't babysit. Her skills are so little, it's not even funny. Um, Number two, can Michael Myers murder his sister and others now before the stroke of midnight? That's the key difference, too. Though there's a similarity in the question somewhat changes because Rob Zombie is adding other people to the mix on Halloween night. It isn't just going to be Judith Margaret Myers. In fact, the first set of people Michael actually murders is the school bullies who are fucking bullying his hapless ass. And rightfully so. They got what was coming to them. Now, it's Halloween night. Can Michael Myers not murder one people? Can he murder three people before the stroke of midnight? The answer? It's the same answer as in the first one. The answer is always yes. Fate doesn't actually change even if you add people to it. It doesn't break from John Carpenter's original philosophy. If any fucking thing, Rob Zombie adds to it, which I will give him full fucking credit for. And no, I'm not kissing ass. I'm giving credit where credit's due. Think about it. John Carpenter's message in his original Halloween, when Laurie Strode is reading from a book about Frankenstein, that fate never changes, meaning no matter what you do, who you add to it, fate is going to remain the same. This isn't just about Laurie Strode. This is about Judith Margaret Myers. I always think about that, about Judith, when Laurie is saying this. Simply because she is Michael's first victim in John Carpenter's Halloween. And though she's not Michael's first victim in Rob Zombie's, she's still a victim regardless. Michael murders Judith's piece of shit boyfriend after they had sex. He murders the stepdad by slitting his throat. And then he murders his sister. He goes upstairs, puts on the white mask, and murders his sister. That's another big difference. Michael didn't have the legendary white mask in John's original. He had a clown mask. In this, the white mask is worn by the boyfriend because it's a mask he bought, which Judith finds stupid. Fitting that this mask is going to be her untimely demise as much as her brother is. Her brother does murder her and two other people all before the stroke of midnight. So when you ask, can you change Judith Margaret Myers' fate? The answer, no matter whether you look at John Carpenter's Halloween or Rob Zombie's, is ultimately no. You can't change her fate. Her fate is set in stone, no matter, again, who you add to it, whether you add a stepdad, a boyfriend for Judith, who actually sticks the fuck around and gets laid. It's meant to happen. There's no change in it. It doesn't matter if Dr. Emmett Brown and Marty McFly come back in the DeLorean. Even they would be murdered some way, somehow. Not saying Michael would know that they were going to show up. It's just you can't change the hands of fate. Even if our good buddy Barnabas showed up back in time, things would not end well. They would really not fucking end well. I guarantee you, instead of Michael killing, Barnabas would just kill everybody. You know what? Fuck it. I don't know anybody. I'm not related to anybody. Let's just start drinking some blood. Willie, get my cane. No. In all seriousness, the reason Judith's fate is set in stone is because she is always meant to die. And though that sounds sad and somber, it's a rewarding part for Halloween fans. We know that Michael, unequivocally, no matter what timeline you go off of, is going to murder his sister. Now, in Rob Zombies, like I said, she's not the first victim. In John Carpenter's, she is. And even in David Gordon Green's, who's following 1978, which includes the events of 1963, who is Michael Myers' first victim? Judith Margaret Myers. She is murdered October 31st, 1963, Halloween night, all before the stroke of midnight. Judith Myers in Rob Zombie's Halloween is murdered on Halloween night before the stroke of midnight. In many ways, it sort of sounds like the Cinderella rule. Instead of reverting back into a pumpkin, Michael's just going to kill some people before the stroke of midnight. No, in all seriousness, this isn't Cinderella, but it somewhat sounds like it when you think about it. Here's Michael Myers. Instead of being Judith Myers, we're going to be Michael Myers for the moment. You're stalking your sister in 1963. You're watching her from across. You're watching your house from across the street, where you know she is. She's making out with her boyfriend. You walk over to investigate, and that's exactly what she's doing. You hear her say, "Oh, Michael's around here someplace," meaning she doesn't give two other shits about where you actually are. Not that this is a motive for murder, mind you. It really isn't. He's still watching her and her boyfriend. And when he kills her and he stabs her many times, killing her half naked. She's in her panties after all, and only in her panties. In Rob Zombie's Halloween, she's in a t-shirt in her underwear. Was Michael Myers wanting to touch his sister in Rob Zombie's Halloween? He touched her leg, but I more think it was to get her attention, and it got the wrong kind of attention. Michael does stab his sister and kill her on both versions. On this, again, what's the night? It's Halloween night. He kills both versions of Judith. And when you think about it, it's one of the most disturbing, unsettling things. Not just the death, but the fact that you can do absolutely dick to change it. It's all the more heartbreaking, and it's all the more reminder of just how sadistic Michael Audrey Myers really is. Here's a man who, no matter what we say, doesn't give two shits what we actually say. He just goes around murdering. He disappears and reappears. He seems to be everywhere and nowhere all at the same time. He's like a fucking phantom. He's there 1 minute and gone the goddamn next. And that's what makes him scary. He could be watching you at any given moment and then strike before the clock strikes 12 on Halloween night. Hope you enjoyed the retrospective in the video. You guys have a great day.